Good evening, ladies and gents, and a Merry Christmas to you. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. This is Espen Kraft and a little live special during the holidays. I'm in Norway, as many of you know, and it's 9 p.m. At the evening here. No snow, a pleasant 5 degrees Celsius. That's about around 40 Fahrenheit, I think. And it's very windy, so windy in fact that I feared earlier tonight that the power might go off, and if everything goes black, it's because of a storm here. Nothing I can do about that if that happens, but let's cross our fingers and hope that it's not going to end that way. I see in the chat here that we have lots of people coming in, and that's very, very nice. I really appreciate that you tell me where you're coming from. So wherever you are in the world, I'm happy to see you in the chat window here. And as I promised, this will be, as I nearly always do, a live Q&A, questions and answers. So if you have any questions you'd want my input on, this is the time to ask them. I also have a couple of announcements in terms of where my channel is going in 2025, if you follow my channel. And I have some other things to say as well. So we'll go through everything in an order, which I've set up beforehand. But sometimes we deviate from the planned order if I get questions in that is relevant to answer before anything else. That's starting soon. I should take that away. And we have officially started, of course. And there's one thing that this year told me, and that is you can't mess with the internet too much before things starts to happen. And if it's one word that really struck out, at least for the later part of the year, it's the word scam. And I've had a lot of joy coming my way from watching all of the reaction videos and reactions on forums, etc., to that one word. There's a lot of people that seem to think that I don't know what the word scam means. And I'm, of course, referencing my Prophet X ordeal very late in the year. And before that, my video about how I think a lot of expensive synths are, very overpriced in terms of what you get in terms of sound. So let's talk a little bit about that first. And I stand by everything I've said so far. I think any synth above, let's say, $2,000 is a scam. And by scam, I mean that in terms of sound, you're not getting your money's worth. And a lot of people didn't seem to listen carefully to what I said in that infamous video. I said that those synths are glorified VSTs, and I stand by that as well. If you're after the sound coming from a flagship synth costing $3,000 or $4,000, you can get that sound in your PC or Mac. I firmly believe that, and I'll live by that rule now, and I will live by that rule for the rest of my productive years as a pro musician, making music for clients and for myself. I will not pay that amount of money for any flagship synth anymore. I've done so in the past, but I think software emulations and synth software now has come so far that there's no need for spending that kind of money for a flagship synth for the sound. I must emphasize for the sound. If you want a tactile experience, if you have synth as a hobby and you just want to sit around at Saturday night noodling in your living room with a couple of synths that you paid $5,000 for each, that's totally fine. I said so in that video as well. Nothing wrong with that. I also like to have hardware synths to mess around with. I have some from old times, vintage ones, a couple of new ones. But for the sound itself, I no longer use those synths, like my Prophet VS, for instance. I've been working on a soundtrack for the last part of 2024, and there's a lot of Prophet VS sounds in that, and 90% of those Prophet VS sounds comes from the Arturia soft Prophet VS. I found no reason to turn on my old VS for those sounds, because the sounds exactly the same in the Arturia VS in the mix. Alone on a good hi-fi system, side by side, I can still hear a little bit of difference. But to me, as a working producer and musician, those differences aren't worth turning on my VS or buy a Prophet VS if I really wanted that sound. I can buy nicely with the software emulation of that synth. And it's the same for other vintage synths as well. And then you have the new synths that are not emulating any particular old vintage synth, like the Moog Muse or whatever. You can get those sounds in many other ways without paying out for a Moog Muse. I'm using this as an example. And as I also said in that infamous video, all of the flagship synths, all the synths costing hundreds of thousands of dollars if you can find one, can sound beautiful, wonderful. They're all sounding good. I will turn the coin around and say that you can't buy a new synth today that doesn't sound nice. All synths can sound nice. They can also sound very bad. It depends on how you program it and how you use it. And I use my synths in musical arrangements. I don't sit around playing a synth for hours just to appreciate the synth. I don't do that anymore. So for me, using software now is the way to go forward when I'm working for clients, again, then as a working musician. When I'm making music for my own enjoyment, my own music, which I often release, I use both hardware and software, simply because I too like to mess around with my old synths occasionally, and I have some presets that I like and whatever. So when I have the time, I still like to use some hardware. But again, it's never, or it's not for the sound anymore. It's more for my own enjoyment. And if you enjoy paying thousands of dollars for a synth, do so. I don't care, but I'm getting asked this a lot. You have no idea how many emails I get from people on a weekly basis asking for my advice. You might think that there are few, but there are lots of emails coming in my way, and it's very often questions about should I get this synth, or Espen, should I get this synth, or yeah, questions like that. And I no longer can recommend you paying thousands of dollars for a hardware synth if you're after the sounds, mind you. So this isn't a rant, really. This is just how I look at things and trying to nuance a little bit of what happened in the keel of that video, which caused a lot of turmoil. Remember, when I say turmoil, you have to admit that we synth geeks or synth nerds, there are more people interested in combine harvesters than in the difference between a digital or analog synth. We are piss ants in the pool of things to worship. So we are not many people, so that there could be turmoil in our little pool of piss ants. It's beyond me, but it is what it is. And even in that little world, there can be some commotion when someone goes against the common consensus of what makes good synth sound. So I had a lot of joy watching all the raging over my little video. And I was talking to my bank manager just the other day, and we agreed that it's because of, I don't know if any of you haters are watching right now, but if you are, I have to thank you for financing a very nice Christmas holiday for me and my family. It's been a long time since we celebrated in such excess as we have this year. And it's all thanks to you jokers that raged about my synth opinions and drove the YouTube algorithm through the roof. Again, all is a relative in our little community here. So haters, I hope you forever stay in that sensation of rage and continue to drive the algorithms when I release new videos. So I salute you. So that's that, and cheers, my friends. This is not Coca-Cola, by the way, nor is it Dr. Pepper. So let's see. There's a lot of comments here in the list here. So let's see if we can find some questions to answer before I continue. This is relevant. Thank you for asking. Dear Espen, any plans for 2025 in new albums, patches, synths, and hardware? And I was originally, and I even talked about this on my channel, I was planning to release both a Those Days CD release in 2024, and I was also hoping to release my new album in 2024. Neither of those things happened because of a heavy workload during the last part of 2024, which I again, unfortunately, cannot talk about. I'm sorry, but making music for games is a long haul. Big games takes years to develop for the developers and manufacturers of those games. And music is often commissioned very early on in the process. And the signing NDAs is very important to those companies, of course. So I have been making music for a lot of interesting things in 2024, of which I cannot talk anything. Again, I'm sorry, but that prevented me from working very much on my own music during the latter part of 2024. But all that work is done by now, so I hope to be able to focus entirely on my new album, which I have all the songs written, lots of production already done and arrangements done, but there's still lots of work to do there. And also my re-release of Those Days with the original mixes, of course, but also new mixes and bonus tracks, etc. And both of those albums will be released on CD only. They will not be on Spotify, as you know. I've quit Spotify and streaming media. They will only be on Bandcamp and on CD in limited runs. So I will, of course, announce things on my channel when it happens. But I look forward to releasing around 300 CDs of both, 300 CDs of Those Days and 300 CDs of my new album coming up. And for my new album, that will be a compilation of songs which shall span sort of my working years as a composer and arranger, producer, etc. So there will be songs that are influenced heavily by the early 80s, and then we go up towards the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, and early 2000s. So there will be trance music, techno music on that CD, as well as very raw and unpolished pre-1983 music as well. So we have the whole spectrum of what I've done. This is what I really want to do for that release, showing 3 decades of Espen Kraft music. I did so much music in the 90s. That was definitely my most productive years in all of my career so far. I did so many things for so many people and for so many different avenues, if you like. So it'll be fun, and it has been fun to go back to the 90s and do things like I did in the 90s. So thanks for asking. As for synths in 2025, I have a video about that coming up. There's not one new synth on the market today I have absolutely no desire for any synth on the market. And in that, I mean, any synth announced coming in 2025, I have no desire for that either. That doesn't mean I won't get any of those synths into the studio. That might happen. People might send me a synth, or I might acquire a synth through various sources. I might even try them in the studio or try them for myself, but there's not a single synth I want to spend my money on because I have everything I need. I don't need any more synth. I don't need any more sounds. I have all the sounds, samples, and gear I need to make my music for the rest of my life. So no desire for new gear. And yeah, so that's how I feel about that. Let's see what we have here. An interesting one. Why keep the Prophet X over the Prophet VS, though? As you know, the Prophet X has had its problems. I've fixed all the problems with my Prophet X. I will keep my Prophet X because no other synth slash sampler on the market can do what the Prophet X can. And no other synth can hold my vintage sounds, sounding the way I want them to sound in any other type of synth. And for live use, I will continue to use my Prophet X, but I can no longer trust it not freezing up on me. And because of that, I will always have a backup solution with me live that I can turn to if my Prophet X freezes on stage. If that happens, I will just continue playing on the backup solution and just reboot the Prophet X. And for the next song, I'll be back on the Prophet X. So unfortunately, I do not no longer recommend the Prophet X if anyone asks. If you're not ready to handle problems down the road, because you will have problems down the road with your Prophet X. If you're ready to handle those problems, I still recommend it for what it can do. I'm very happy with the Prophet X when it works. And I've also got a replacement motherboard so I can switch if I have to in the future. I have another power supply ready on standby. I have my Prophet X SSD drive cloned, imaged, so I can swap that out if I need to. So I'm set for what the future might bring in terms of the Prophet X. And the Prophet VS, which is right next to me here, that is for sale. My Prophet VS is for sale, but as you know, a Prophet VS doesn't go for cheap. So if it doesn't sell, I'll keep it and use it occasionally. But I don't use it much anymore, so I've decided to put that up for sale. So I will keep the Prophet X and get rid of the Prophet VS if I can for the price I want. But if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. So that's that. Is the Jupiter 8 for $50,000 a scam? Of course. No Jupiter 8 is worth $50,000. It's not worth a tenth of that, in my opinion, actually. The Jupiter 8 is very beautiful to look at. It's actually right there. Jupiter 8, original Jupiter 8, which is still not mine. I just have it here, borrowed from a friend. But I use that occasionally, and musically, it's not worth more than what anyone is willing to give for it. That is, of course, the market. So if someone is willing to give $50,000 for it, it's worth $50,000 to them, but it's not worth that to me. And although I don't like subscription models, I think they're from Satan. Roland Cloud has a Jupiter 8, of course, which sounds very good. Other emulations to the Jupiter 8 as well. But so I'd use that if I were interested in a Jupiter 8. Maybe Behringer comes out with something later, which is good enough. Maybe, I don't know. So let's see, what else? An interesting one here. So Behringer for the win. Well, I'm not a big fan of Behringer. That's because the Behringer gear I've had for the last 5 years or so has not been very great in terms of build quality. Some of it has crapped out on me, and the pots and faders and the tactile feel of a lot of that gear hasn't been all that good. That has made me question the quality control of Behringer. All the Behringer products I had in the past, and especially the Behringer Edison and the what was the one? Was a compressor of some kind, which I had in the 90s. They never failed, always sounded good, and they were with me for decades. Very good pieces of gear. So I think, in my experience, Behringer had better quality control in the past. But I'm also aware that Behringer makes a lot of synth clones for a very cheap price. And what I've heard of the Behringer clones, and I've actually heard many of them, they sound very good for the price. I won't say that many of the Behringer clones sounds very close to the originals. But as I told you earlier in this stream, does that matter? Well, it depends on what you want. If you want a sound very close to the originals, I think you do just as well with software. I firmly believe that. If you want to have the Jupiter 8, let's use that as an example. If you want to have the Jupiter 8 for cheap in hardware form, then I'm pretty sure Behringer will satisfy when they come out with a Jupiter 8 voice clone or 16 voice clone. I don't think it'll sound exactly the same, but it'll sound very good. I'm not talking about the build quality here. I'm talking about the sound. And if that's something you'd like, you should buy it. But for me, I will not buy any Behringer synths for my own money. But if someone sends me one for review or want to borrow it to me, loan me one, I'd be happy to check out any Behringer synths, which I haven't already tried out. So, and price-wise, Behringer is exactly where the companies should be in terms of price. And let me show you this. This is a chip. It's inside a plastic thing here. I won't take it out, but this is a synth on a chip. This is an Alpha AS3394 single chip on a voice. And if you have 6 of these, a power supply, a keyboard, and the envelopes and LFOs in software, you basically have a Oberheim Matrix 6 or Matrix 1000, because this chip is pretty much a clone of the CEM 3394, which was also a synth on a chip. I have one in my 6-track over here. And I bought a stack of these for $7 each. Inside this chip is a fully fledged VCO. You have a VCF in here. You have pulse width modulation. You have the waveforms. You have everything you need in a synth for one voice. And that means, like I said, if you have 6 of these, a couple of LFOs, envelopes in software, Arduino, for example, and a keyboard, some MIDI ins and outs maybe, you'll have a complete synth. So if someone can explain to me why a flagship VCO synth has to cost $4,000 when you can get 8 of these for $7 each? I'd be happy to get a good explanation for that. And please talk to me like I was a 5-year-old or a golden retriever. Again, why a synth should cost $4,000 when you have all electronics for pocket change these days. It's not rocket science. Tom Oberheim said himself that making a synth is very easy and it shouldn't cost much. That is from Tom Oberheim. And when he said it, Dave Smith was in the same room, and Dave Smith gave Tom Oberheim the evil eye. He didn't like what Tom Oberheim had to say. And that's because Sequential knows how to price their synths. Sequential charges a lot for their synths, and I would rather say Sequential charges a lot for their synths. Again, in reference to that other video. So again, here we have one voice of a Matrix 6 or 6-track or whatever. And this is what is inside all the Behringer synths. Behringer uses their own chip from Cool Audio, which they own, and they make all the chips themselves. And that's why Behringer have such low prices for the synths, because they use chips with synths in them in their own products. And other manufacturers should take notice and not overcharge for their own synths. You might disagree, and that's totally fine, of course. That's what this is about, isn't it? Talking about things and agreeing, disagreeing. Let's see what else here. Here's something. Would you like to build a custom desk and seating for your music room? No, not really. I have everything I need in here. It's set up exactly how I want it. I have no acoustic treatment at all in this room. I've talked about this before, and I don't need it. I don't mix very loud. I don't sing very loud, so the room doesn't influence my singing voice much in terms of recordings. And I know how this room sounds. I know how my monitor sounds, so I don't need anything else in terms of acoustic treatment. I don't need anything else in terms of monitoring. I have my trusty M Audio BX5s for monitoring, and my single Logitech desktop PC speaker for mono listening and phase, etc. So I don't need anything else than that. So no, I don't need anything else in this studio at this point. Let's see what else here. Lots of questions here, people, and opinions. That's very nice to see. This one, I don't think I've had many of for the last couple of years. What's my opinion on digital Melotrons? Well, old analog Melotrons with the tape going in the loop, and you're mechanically playing the tape loop was a lot of fun. I've not done it very much, but I have played a couple of Melotrons in my life, mostly for fun. I don't think I've ever recorded a Melotron for anything, as far as I can remember right now. Anyways, digital Melotrons, well, digital church organs. I play the church organ a lot. There's something special about sitting in a church playing on a real pipe church organ, of course. That's a treat in itself. The Melotrons, maybe in the same way, the sensation of playing a real one is nice. If you're after the sound in an arrangement, I don't think anyone will hear it. I've heard a couple of the digital Melotrons. They sound fine to me. And again, playing an original Melotron next to a real Melotron, you will definitely hear the difference and feel the difference more, maybe. But in an arrangement with other sounds, drums and bass, etc., I don't think anyone will hear the difference. So whatever works, like in Bloodsport, remember that? Use any technique that works to honor you, Shidoshi. Anyone remember that? Up with your hands. Let's have a zip of this again. A nice sip. I know that Behringer. Okay, let's answer this one. I was hoping to avoid that one, but the Behringer LM drum, it has to be the most ugly drum machine I've ever seen. I hate the look of the new Behringer LM drum, and I really don't see the point of that at all for me. But if you like it, buy it, use it, make some good music with it. But to me, this is really one of the pieces of gear I really don't like the look of so far. I think it looks hideous. And the sounds, the Lin sounds, you can get them anywhere today. And you can sample into the LM, or at least import samples into the Behringer LM drum machine, I think. What I've read anyway. And I don't see the point of that at all. I'm using samples when I make my music directly in the DAW. I have a Roland TR-8S here because it looks good in videos. I never use it except for in videos to sync it up to something. I never use it in my music. I use samples, but I have it, and I'll keep it for a rainy day when I like it, I guess. Never use it much. So let's see here. Another interesting here. What can instrument makers do to create new unique instruments and inspiring sounds? Well, inspiring sounds can always be made on lots of things. I assume you mean synths here. What can synth makers do? I don't know actually what they can do. There seems to be a market for new synths. Otherwise, I guess they wouldn't make them. It's just not for me anymore because I have what I need. I want to make music. I don't want to play around with new synths all the time. I make music. So I have no idea what they can do to do that. Let's see here. Okay. Where can we get the chips? This is very easy. You just go online. This is, like I said, let's see if I have... this is an Alpha AS3394. So if you just Google Alpha AS3394, you'll get lots of hits for where you can find those chips. Not hard to find at all, actually. Here's some politics for you. Slave labor in China makes Behringer cheap products. Everything is made in China. Pretty much every piece of tech today is made in China. It might have been designed somewhere else, and maybe the final assembly is done in the US or wherever, but it's all coming from China. So if you want to ride that horse, you can't own anything in terms of tech. So get off that horse immediately and park it in the stables and have a nice bean dinner. And I guess the question is, why is Clavia Nord so expensive? Clavia is a Swedish company, and the Swedes, they really know how to scam their customers in terms of price. You have teenage electronics and stuff like that, and overpriced products, just like Apple. But I have an Apple Air M1 myself. I'm actually doing this live stream from a Mac. But I didn't pay it with my own money. It just got here, so I'm using it. But some companies like to sucker their customers more than others. And the red color is looks very good on videos and on stage live. It's a very clever scheme by Nord, just as Akai did with their white coloring in the 80s. So the Swedes have always known how to dot the I's in terms of pricing. Let's see here. There's a lot of questions here, my friends. And it won't be easy to answer all of them, I'm afraid. And no, I'm not waiting anything special from NAMM 2025. I have no hopes for anything revolutionary that I might be interested in. Another thing is where my channel is going in 2025. I said something already about my new albums and stuff like that, and I will of course make some videos in terms of that. But if you've been following my channel for a while now, and I mean for some years, you know that I never started my channel back in 2016 to show that I have some amazing abilities or stuff like that. I made the channel because I had something to say in terms of music and my love for 80s synth-based music. And I originally wanted to make longer tutorials on how to make arrangements and sounds and productions and show how things were done in the 80s. But ever so slowly, and I was willingly doing that myself, ever so slowly, the channel turned into a sort of vintage gear porn video where I showed all the intricacies of old synths and drum machines and history type videos about certain synths, etc. And that was fun for a while. But if you followed my channel for the last 12 months or so, you might have noticed that, and those old videos, they did very, very well for me. I had lots of views. Many of them have hundreds of thousands of views. But lately, I've decided to go back to where I was when I started the channel and to make more practical videos about arrangements and breakdowns and how I construct my music, etc. And my views have dropped considerably during the last year or so, and I'm okay with that. I knew that going away from that gear porn type of content, my views would drop considerably. And as I said, I'm fine with that. I knew that would happen. And this is the way forward for me. I will continue to use vintage synths in some of my videos. I will show them. I'm not saying I won't ever do any videos like those old ones again. I probably will do a couple. But the majority of my videos going forward into 2025 will be about the music. I get off on making the music. I don't get off on gear, and I certainly don't want to get off on showing gear just for showing gear anymore. I'm not a collector of synths. I never was. I'm not a hoarder of synths. I never was. It's just that my channel made it possible for me to suddenly have access to a lot of stuff and show it off in videos, and I took that opportunity and I had a lot of fun doing it, but I don't have much fun doing it anymore. So my focus will be on showing how I make music, how you can make music, tips, techniques, chords, melody lines, top lines, how to mix, equalizing, frequencies, etc., stuff like that. Videos that will average out on 4,000 or 5,000 views per video, and that's fine. YouTube is not my main source of income. I know a lot of people think that. It's not. YouTube is my free time, so to speak. My own music and YouTube, making videos, that's basically my free time. When I'm not doing that, I'm working on making patches. I'm working on making music for clients, or I'm making sound design and consultancy for people. That's really how I make my living. I don't make my living from YouTube. That's a very small percentage of my income. So I'd rather spend my time on YouTube in 2025 going forward, making videos that mean something to me, that can actually help people develop as musicians and composers and arrangers if they're into retro-based music, which is the thing I do and the thing I love. So that's basically what I want to do with my time on YouTube in 2025. So if you're disappointed of hearing that, that's totally fine. Disappointments are part of life, and it'll help you grow as a human being. Being able to handle disappointments, it's very important. So that's that about my my channel going forward. And let's go back to the geek stuff. What's your favorite mono synth? Well, I don't like mono synth particularly. I've never been a much fan of mono synths. I like to play chords. To me, 80s music is about chords because I'm much more influenced by the mid to late 80s than the early 80s. I have some, of course, favorites from the early 80s as well. But mono synths is not my thing. It never was. So if I have to pick out one mono synth that I really like, I still like, it has to be the first mono synth I got, and that was the Korg MS-20. The MS-20 was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about synth sound design on the MS-20. You can say I learned my subtractive synthesis on the MS-20, although it was not my first synth, but the MS-20 was a mono synth I enjoyed a lot in the early days, and now I have samples of it, or I have it in the Arturia V collection. Another interesting question here, at least for me, how have the SSL 6 mixers been holding up long term? I had 2 at one time. I sold one because I didn't really need it. And I have 1 left, and it's a cornerstone in my setup. And I actually have a 5-year review of the SSL 6 coming up in just a few days. So I will answer, I guess, what you're wondering in that video. This goes down smooth. Nice, nice, nice. Yes. This is also very interesting because it's about collecting for the sake of collecting. Is it wrong to hold onto a synth you never use because it looks pretty? In this case, a Juno 106. I can't say what's right or wrong for you, and I would certainly not suggest that you get rid of something. And you should never listen to what a YouTuber has to say in terms of advice, really. Not even me. You can listen to it and think about it, but don't let other people decide what you do. Let me just say that first. You're in the same position as I'm right now with my Prophet VS in a way. I also have a Juno 106, by the way. And I would rather keep my Juno 106 than my Prophet VS if I had to choose between the two. Let me answer your question with another little story. And my friend Anders Jensen, I think I've talked to him about this before. And when I was a kid, I had a passion for model trains. not in a big way because I couldn't afford to set up a big train set and mountains and cities and stuff like that. But I liked model trains. I still do, and I don't watch much in terms of music synth videos on YouTube. I watch other types of videos, and some of the videos I watch are about model trains. And so I've been thinking lately, or the last year or so, about getting a couple of locomotives, because the state railway in Norway has some really nice locomotives that's been made in the model train form by Märklin, among other manufacturers. And I've thought about getting a couple of locomotives, put on one single track and have it on my shelf just to look at because it looks pretty. And I've thought about this yes or no a couple of times, but I've come to the conclusion that those model trains, they are really meant to be run on tracks, enjoyed when they're moving forward in their right environments. So I don't feel comfortable about buying one, putting it on the shelf, when that locomotive could have been bought by someone else that would actually run it in their setup the way it was meant to be run. So I don't think I will hold on to a synth just because it's pretty. It has to be used on occasion, at least, for me to hang on to it. So if that answers your question, I don't know, but I think it's really sad seeing collectors buy up synths just to put them as display pieces. A synth is meant to be played, whether or not I think it's a scam or not. If it exists, it exists, and if it exists, it needs to be played at least, because they can all sound great. So I would not hold on to a synth only because it looks pretty if I never use it. But that's me. If you want to take that for what it is, it's up to you. Back to what I talked about a little bit earlier. Is that because the majority are gear pornographers instead of enjoying the outcome of using the gear? I'd say that 90% of all YouTube channels concerning synths and YouTubers doing synths in a YouTube video, they're in it for the synth itself and making good synth gear porn. And I say that because I can't seem to find much original music made by many of those showing synths off on YouTube. I really can't. Some exceptions, of course. And also all of the hate comments and rage comments I got from some of my videos this year are coming from people that has never done a piece of music in their life with their gear. And there's nothing wrong in having synths and playing them for fun, having a good time at the evening playing their synths. At least they're playing them. But I can't find much music made from these people claiming to have such strong opinions about DCO versus VCOs, etc. What difference does it make if a car has a Nokia tire or a Bridgestone tire? It doesn't really matter. They're all good tires, but you have to at least drive the car to find out how it is and use it as it was meant. And same with synths. If you're going to talk to me about opinions on synths, at least show me the music you've made with your synths then. So not many YouTube synth channels actually make music. I do. Gear worship is a disease. Hoarding is a disease. A very bad disease. So let's see here what we have here. Someone's commenting on my jumper here, and let me show you. You can't see it, but here. I find your lack of cheer disturbing, it says. And this is, of course, a Star Wars Darth Vader Christmas sweater. I find your lack of cheer disturbing. Impressive, very impressive. What's your brew? Well, it sure tastes good. It's a sort of Norwegian ale of sorts, which I drink only at Christmas. And it's very good, actually, very tasty. And it's not Christmas before I've had some of that. And I've been drinking this since I was about, for as long as I can remember, at least 7 or 8 years old. I had some of this during Christmas. And I turned out to be a fine, fine specimen. I have some offers of doing PCB repair works here, and I thank you for offering that. Thank you very much. Here's a question. What's the history of the equipment that Vangelis used? And if you guys want to chip in the comment section here, chat section here, you can do so. Blade Runner, etc., the Yamaha CS80, stuff like that. I've never been a big fan of Vangelis, I have to admit. To some, that is almost heresy to say, but he's not on my list of the top film composers. But I acknowledge the impact and he had on future movie composers to some degree, at least. And I think Vangelis is a good example of making good music when he had those, for that time, pretty new machines. He used the CS80 among other things. And remember that in 1980, 81, the CS80 was quite new. So he used new stuff on the market back then for some of his biggest soundtracks. And I agree with someone saying here that I'm pretty sure that Vangelis would have really liked some of the new synths coming out today, and he would probably not pay full price for them either, which would have been good for him, of course. Another thing that you should know is that I get a lot of offers to do reviews on my channel, both for software and hardware, and I do some occasionally, but I never say yes to do a video review unless the product or software, synth, etc., is something I'd like to try based on the specs the manufacturer gives me or what I've read before. If it's something I think could be of use to the music I make, or for any production I'm working on at the moment, and also interesting for my audience, you. If it's not, if those criteria are not met, I will not take on the review. So I turn down at least 8 out of 10 offers to do video reviews, and I get many requests per week for doing video reviews on my channel for this and that. And I turn most of them down, actually, because of that. So I'm not selling out my credibility for a cheap buck on my channel. Of course, you only have my word for it, so you can choose to believe it or not, but it is the truth. And when I do a review, even if it's a paid one, I will always have final editorial say-so, of course. No manufacturer or paying client can censor or change the video. That's done from the get-go in terms of agreement. So when I say something about a piece of gear in a video, It is my honest truth. And some videos, I don't say much at all in terms of positive things or negative things. I just show the product, what it can do. And this is something I actually want to do more of. And I've had some criticize that as well. But sometimes I just show the product, software or hardware, what it can do without saying very much in terms of good things or bad things. I just want you to hear what I can do with a piece of software or with a piece of hardware, and you can decide if you like it or not based on what you hear. I think that's the way to go for me in the future. So I will not take on video reviews where I have to say much in terms of the good things or bad things. You can find out for yourself if you like what you hear. So let's see. What else here? Use it or lose it, someone says. Not sure what that means, but let's see. Interesting. Will we see more live shows in 2025? And that's an interesting one. I did a live gig about a year ago. That was my last live gig. And the thing is, in this day and age, there's not... let me put it another way. Back in the days, in the 80s and 90s, you were booked for a gig by a promoter or whatever, bookie, and you were offered some money to go there and there to play, and you played for the agreed fee, and everyone was happy, hopefully. Today, it's not like that anymore. Now you have to, as an independent artist, not a top bill artist, someone like myself, fairly unknown, known by some, but for the most part, not by the common man, everyone in the street. You have to put up your own show now. You have to rent the venue. You have to do the promotion yourself. You have to play for the door. You have to sell your own tickets beforehand, etc. You have to do a lot of legwork to get people to come, etc., etc. So you're basically your own promotion, your own bookie, your own manager, etc., and stuff like that. And someone sending you an email or calling you, "Hey, Espen, can you come to play at that festival? And we'll pay you this and that in fees." That's not happening anymore. And because of that, I don't do many live shows these days, and I don't plan on doing many in 2025 either. I have none planned so far because I can't be bothered doing all of that now, not at my age. I'm turning 56 next year, and my touring days, so to speak, they are over. I played a lot in the 90s live on stage every week, and I could do videos about that and tell you stories about that and this and that. And I had so many fun times. I experienced so much, and it really shaped me as a musician, producer, arranger. And I took that with me when I continued to work in the studio for years to come after that. But to haul around synths now and my mixing rigs and stuff like that, like Kebu is doing, glory to him for doing it, and he seems to enjoy it. I know it's exhausting for him as well, but I don't want to do that anymore for pocket change, and I don't even know if I'll make pocket change out of my time. I have my family, I have my job here, and for me to do a live show now where I have to travel a lot with lots of gear, etc., it's not something I want to do. If someone pays for my if someone will pay me and my guitarist to come to play a show, and they put money up front, and if I'm happy with the settlement beforehand, I might do it, but I'm under no illusions that will happen. So I love to play live, and I'd love to expand on the live sets we did last time, but it has to be worth my while in terms of payment. Otherwise, I won't do it. So live now will definitely have to be worth my while to do it. But I love playing live. I always have enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to do it. But I don't think it'll happen much in 2025 or later, unfortunately, in many ways. If you're wondering where I got my Christmas sweater, I honestly can't remember. I had it on standby last Christmas when I did a live video like this, live stream. I got it for that, but I can't actually now remember where I got it, but it should be easy to find if you Google I find your lack of cheer disturbing. I am pretty sure you can find it easily online. I hope so, at least. So let's see here. What about Hans Zimmer? What about him? He had a stack of Roland S760 samplers in his time, and lots of Akai samplers before he went down the DAW wormhole and got everything inside the DAW. I actually love Hans Zimmer a lot. I think he's made a lot of good soundtracks, movie scores, and in my upcoming, my favorite 10 favorite movie scores, he's actually on that list, barely, with one of his scores. I won't say what it is now, but you can take a guess, and I reveal it in the video coming up later. That's also another thing which I sometimes think it's a little bit funny, is that some people think that my latest video on my channel, the video I published latest, is also the video I made latest. I don't think there are many YouTubers that actually publish videos as they go. Some of my videos can be years old before I publish them. And when I release a video now with a JX8P, I always get comments from people saying, "Hey, Espen, you got the JX8P back. How nice." But it's really an old video. So most of the videos you see I publish, they've been made months ago. My patrons know that because I often release them on Patreon months before they surface on my channel out in the open for everyone to see. So let's see here. This question I will not answer. I'm not here to talk, say bad things about other YouTubers. That's really not cool at all. I have YouTube channels I like to watch, and most of them are not synth or music related at all. So I don't pay much attention to what goes on YouTube in terms of synth YouTubing at all, I have to say. When I sit down to relax eating my breakfast, I usually watch YouTube videos about boats and nature and model trains and maybe what else? 8-bit show and tell I find very interesting. Maybe some of you have watched him. He basically programs on Commodore 64s and show machine code and assembler, and he debugs old Commodore 64 games now 40 years later. I think his name is, he starts with, "Hi, I'm Robin. that channel I like very much. So these are the channels I like to watch when I'm having my breakfast, stuff like that. What's the best microphone for the money? This is something I get a lot, and I don't mean anything offensive when I say this is the same question as what's the best car for the money? It's totally impossible for me to say which microphone is the best for the money. It depends on what you're going to use it for. And if you're going to use it for vocals, for singing, it all depends on the voice you're going to record. That's why top studios have so many microphones to choose from. So when they put a singer in front of 5 different microphones, they record them all, and then they'll listen back and decide what microphone is best for that singer. Some microphones takes a nasal voice much better than others and stuff like that. So we have to choose. Of course, being a amateur musician or a musician with not too much money, you can't afford to buy 5 top dollar microphones just to have something to choose from. You have to pick an all-round microphone. And again, if it's for voice, it depends on other factors. Do you want a dynamic microphone? Do you want to use a handheld? So everything from a Shure SM58, Beta 58, to a large capsule condenser or tube microphone from Neumann or whatever. I found a good all-round solution in Austria Audio with their OC8 microphone, which I use a lot. I'm using this right now, doing this talking. I do many of my voiceovers with this and much of my singing on this. It's a nice compromise between different things. So this is a compromised microphone for me. I'm also using an 80s vintage Neumann U89 for a lot of my vocals, which isn't necessarily the best microphone for my voice, but it depends somewhat on a microphone placement, etc. So it's hard to say what microphone is the best for you, depending on what you're going to use it for. So we have to have more parameters to give you a better advice. I really appreciate super chats, guys. A lot. Thank you for that. And I have no one to help me this evening. So if I miss a super chat and a question, I apologize. Please make me aware of this in the chat room here, and I'll try to be aware of it. So big thanks, David, for the super chat. I appreciate it a lot. So let's see, more about my favorite new synth YouTuber channel. I've answered that already. There are some suggestions for my favorite Hans Zimmer soundtracks here. Someone's suggesting Interstellar, which is a very good movie and soundtrack. It might be that, it might not. I'll not reveal it here. And someone suggests the Blade Runner 2049 was epic, I have to say. And to many, again, I should probably be burned at the stake here, but I enjoyed Blade Runner 2049 more than the original Blade Runner as a movie. I've never been a big fan of the original Blade Runner. It's okay, but I've never been a big fan of it, nor the music. But I like the 2049 movie a lot, I have to say. So let's see here. The JX8P is something that you should never ever sell. Well, I sold mine. Actually, I've sold loads of 8Ps through the years. I've had at least 5 or 6 different 8Ps through the years, JX10s as well. But I have to say, the PG8X emulation, I've talked about this before. I find that more than adequate enough for my needs. It sounds fantastic. So I've just sold my 8Ps and I used the PG8X, but I did sample my 8Ps with my custom sounds into the Prophet X, so I have a lot of 8P sounds in the Prophet X, I have to say. Hey, Echo Kraft, same last name as me. Nice. Thanks, man. What composers, musicians inspire you or have inspired you, modern or classical? I have actually answered this question before in a previous live stream, but I can do it again. I listen a lot to classical music. I've played a lot of classical music. I mentioned the church organ earlier. I've worked in the church for 5 years in the 90s. Not as the church organist, I might add, but I did play the church organ a lot, and I've also recorded lots of church organs acoustically. So I know my church organs, and I know a lot of classical composers for the church organ. Johann Sebastian Bach, of course, a big hero of mine. So that is one I've taken a lot of inspiration from, and not only me. I see often famous musicians say Johann Sebastian Bach is a great inspiration to them. Claude Debussy is another one I've listened to a lot. Beethoven, Gustav Holst, a lot of people from the old times. You can hear a lot of those in pop music, especially in 80s and 90s music, 80s most of all, 70s as well. Not so much today, almost non-existent, and that is because music today is not chords. Music today are not made up of melodies and chords. Music today are made up of rhythm and bass and lyrics about someone's ass. Which is not very inspiring to me. So I don't listen much to modern music. I listen to classical music and music from the past, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Not so much 90s, but the 80s, 70s, and 60s. And so the Beatles, Burt Bacharach, of course, everyone from the 80s, all the great groups, artists, and bands. So I listen to a lot of different music. Ry Cooder, I listen to a lot to jazz, stuff like that. So I had to listen to a lot of music when I started to work as a professional musician. You can't come to a gig, or you couldn't come to a gig being asked to play like David Foster without knowing who David Foster was, if you get my drift. So you had to listen to and absorb a lot of different types of music back in the day if you were working as a pro musician. And I have been working as a pro musician since the early 90s or about 1990. So that's that. Thanks again, man. So let's see what else we have here. There's a lot of things going on here. How long shall we continue this live stream, you think, guys? The Atari ST, I have videos on my channel about the Atari ST. I use that a lot in the past, both with Cubase and Notator especially. I was really into pattern-based sequencing in the early 90s. I don't use them very much now, but occasionally to get some inspiration going or creativity going when I'm stuck during my usual shtick. Here's an interesting one. How do you get songwriting gigs? And by songwriting gigs, I have to... I have a lot of connections in the music industry. It sounds pretentious. It's really not a music industry anymore, but I still have a lot of connections. And, you know, when I get asked to do a music intro for a local music venue, for instance, that that's not something that ever shows up on my YouTube channel. So this is really not something I talk about. A lot of people are saying that you have to be in something in the 80s to be able to talk about music on YouTube. You have to have a name from the past to be able to have some credibility on YouTube. But it's really not like that, guys. You know, most 99% of all musicians you've never heard about. 99% of all producers you never heard about. Think about all the music that's been made for the last 5 decades. Music that never went onto the top 100 charts, but they still were. The music was still out there, made by musicians, made by producers, etc. People that you never heard about, and of course, a lot of these people had experience. A lot of these people were extremely talented. I'm talking about other people, not myself, but I think I have some talent. But music was made by a lot of people that you never heard about. So I have a lot of connections from the past. So when a friend of mine, which now runs a musical venue, is setting up a musical, for instance, he will call me, Espen, can you make some music for that or this? And I do it, and we agree upon a fee, etc., and I get paid for my music. But it's not something I talk about on YouTube. It's not music that'll end up on Spotify, which I can link to. But it's still a gig. It still pays the rent at the end of the day, etc. You get it? So I've been in this business for a long time, and as such, I have a lot of connections. But also my channel. Many of the gigs I've gotten in the last 6 or 7 years are directly coming from the channel. People are watching that video that gets 2,000 views. Okay, my D50 video has about 150,000 views, which people enjoys, and that's fine. But another more obscure video with only 2,000 views, where I maybe showcase 10 seconds of me playing something original on the keyboard, that might trigger this guy in another country, and he might email me to say, Espen, that little thing, that will be perfect for a documentary I'm doing here or whatever. Can you expand upon that? And I'll pay you to do that for me. This is the type of gig that I'll do. That's also, I'll never talk about more on my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel has been a great source of getting gigs. So to show off your musical skills on a YouTube channel, no matter how small that channel is, can really be an opener for greater things down the road. So if you're an aspiring musician, maybe setting up a YouTube channel and you feel that, yeah, it doesn't amass too much, hang in there, and good things will come if you put in the work and if you have talent for doing what you're doing on your channel. So this is how I get my gigs. It might be composing, arranging, producing, maybe sound design, etc. Again, maybe some commercial needs a sound of whatever, and they hear it in one of my videos, they might contact me and ask me to license that sound or whatever. Everything counts in large amounts. I even had a video once where I had some original footage of me from a fjord in Norway as a backdrop to the music. And one day I got an email from a commercial studio doing a TV, national broadcasting TV commercial, and they just wanted 5 seconds of that original footage from that fjord. They were not interested in music, just my footage. And they asked me if it was my original footage, and it was. So I sold them that clip. That paid for a lot of things, actually, because that paid very well. So you never know what can happen if you have something out there online. So take that as a little incentive to just be out there with your thing and do what you like. I won't do any top 3 or top 5 or top 10 synths. I don't do that anymore. But I have a little twist on that in an upcoming video. So I will just wait for an upcoming video in early 2025 on that one. So I think you'll enjoy that. And there are, of course, a lot of scams equal to my synth scam analogy when it comes to outboard gear. Many of you might have noticed that I don't have any 500 series gear anymore. I did have actually 2 racks of 500 rack units at one time. I'm not saying it was a scam, because 500 series are a lot cheaper than the 19-inch rack units. But I no longer think that outboard. Let me put it another way. I like a good preamp. You need a good preamp to run your microphone through, so you have to have a good preamp. But I now think that both compression and EQ, especially EQ, are better done in software. I find no reason to have a hardware EQ and compression anymore for the type of music I make. So I've sold all my outboard in terms of EQ and compression because I didn't use it. It was too much of a hassle, so I don't use that anymore. A good preamp or 2, if you're doing stereo, is of course mandatory. You have to have a preamp of some sort, but the preamps in your audio interface is usually more than enough. Enough headroom, enough gain, and you're all set. For a hobby musician or a one-man band, sort of like I am now, I don't record drum sets or things where I need more than 2 microphone tops. Most of the time only 1, so I don't have to have much outboard gear now. I do it all in software. But of course, all of those companies or manufacturers charging $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 for hardware EQs. Some of it are, of course, scams. Some of it, I don't know, collectors, stuff like that. They drive up the prices. So yeah, most of it is a scam. And by scam, I mean overpriced. Bill Conti, I like Bill Conti a lot, actually. So let's see here. Oh, what was the funniest troll comment you got recently? I don't know about recently, but a lot of people consider me a troll now because of my latest videos. And I am Norwegian, and we eat trolls for breakfast. I can't eat myself. So I guess I'm not a troll in that way. But if people call me a troll, that's fine. I like to voice strong opinions. I've always been a person that I've always had strong opinions. As a producer, that's why I actually get hired a lot, because I speak my mind when asked. I never shy away from saying what I mean, and some people can handle that, some cannot. And as a general answer to your question, man, I think one of the funniest things people say, and I've got several of those, is that I'm autistic. I'm an artist because I speak the way I do, and I act the way I do, and I voice myself the way I do. So a mixture of a narcissist and autistic is probably what people are saying the most about me and my personality online. And that's fine. People can call me names, I don't mind. And people can rage, I don't mind. And people can say what they like, I don't mind. And people can make reaction videos, and that I really like. I really like watching reaction videos. But I've only gotten reaction videos to that scam video, mind you. I don't think I've gotten reaction videos before, at least not reaction videos where people were angry. So reaction videos are really nice. I think I've gotten at least 12 or 13 reaction videos to my scam video, of course, with all of them disagreeing. And I think one said that I'm really not entitled to have any opinions at all because I live in a socialist country where we have to share everything, where people can't make money. So there are a lot of idiots out there, lots of morons, lots of jokers that, they should really be protected, I guess, from themselves in a way. So all in all, I have had a blast watching all the reactions to what I've been doing for the later part of 2024. Yeah. So let's see what here. A lot of questions, guys. I can't answer all of them, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. Let's bite on this one. What's your opinion of the Behringer Wave? Well, I haven't played the Behringer Wave as it's not available. I know it's coming, and I see it's gotten some approval from Wolfgang Paul. Has it? I think I read it somewhere, or at least people behind the original PPG. And I wouldn't be surprised if it sounds very much like it. And from what I can see, it's priced relatively low. From what I've seen, it's got 4 octaves. I would have liked 5 on a keyboard of that type. But there's nothing in the PPG, there's nothing in the Behringer Wave I can't do before. You have the microwave in plugin form. You have the PPG Wave itself in plugin form. And there's no reason for me to pay close to 10,000 Norwegian kroner, which is about $1,000, or is it $800 it's going to sell for? Anyways, it's really not necessary for me to pay that kind of money for having sounds I already have access to. So if you don't have any PPG type of sounds from before, you can certainly do it. But unless you're doing wavetable sweeps, which not all sounds in a PPG was doing. If you're not doing wavetable sweeps, when you hear the clicking from wavetable to wavetable within the preset itself, most of that sound in the PPG Wave or Behringer Wave you can do with any digital synth. I have the Prophet VS, I have the Prophet X, you have all kinds of digital synths that can do those pling plong type of sounds coming out of a wave. So don't be fooled, guys. 95% of all the sounds coming out of a PPG can be easily done with other synths, software or hardware today, for a fraction of the price of a original PPG Wave, of course. Now the Behringer Wave is priced relatively low, and I guess that will mean that a lot of people will buy it, and great, buy it, but use it to make some good music. Don't buy it just to sit and play arpeggios on yourself for 2 hours each Saturday night. Use it for making music. That was how the PPG Wave was used back in the day. And no, I've never used tracker software to make my music. I started using the Atari ST when it came, and that had MIDI, of course. That's the reason I got it. And in the pro studio world in the late 80s and moving forward, mid 80s, Amiga was used to play games in the intervals between studio sessions. In the studios, the Atari ST reigned supreme, and the Amiga was never a contender. But there's a lot of really cool tracker music that's been made and is still being made. So it's not, I'm not talking bad about tracker software or the Amiga. Far from it. I love it, but I never did it myself. I appreciate that some of you appreciate my directness and strong opinions. You always get the real Espen when you see videos from me or my live streams. But I might exaggerate and use strong words and voice myself in a way that's meant to stir up some emotions, and that's where some of you get it and some of you do not. So that's driving my wife crazy at times, because I'm like that in real life as well. And as such, I'm strictly an acquired taste, as some might say it. As someone said, the vomit was exquisite. So I appreciate you guys appreciating what I'm doing. And that means a lot to me, actually. I don't do this live stream very much because I really have to have something to say when doing live streams, and that's why I've done them rarer and rarer, actually, for the last year or so. But when I'm doing them like now, I really enjoy my time with you guys. So I appreciate it a lot that you're still here. Again, super stickers, super chats, appreciate it, guys. Uri, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, guys, I think we've come to the end here. There's a lot of questions coming, and I appreciate it. Since I've been very busy during the late 2024, I haven't had the time to answer many questions as I normally want on my YouTube channel in the replies, etc. If you've noticed, I haven't been able to answer many of them. And when I get or when I post videos that go, again, relatively viral, like the scam videos or Profit X videos, suddenly I'll have 800 or 900 comments on a video, and there's no way I can start answering all of these. So most of the time when I post videos that go viral, or if they go viral, there won't be much in terms of replies, because I can't handle it. And again, ordinary videos with comments, I try to answer as many as I can, but most of the time these days, it's got to be a thanks or a cheers, because I really don't have the time to answer more. So most of the time I'll just put a heart on it to say that I appreciate you giving me some kind words as a comment. It's nothing personal, but sometimes you don't have the time to answer all the comments, but I do appreciate them, and I read all your comments and replies, and I actually appreciate them a lot. So keep those coming. It's a way for me to feel motivated to do more videos. I don't mind at all that the view count drops when I'm not showing gear porn. So when I make videos that I like to make, which I think are useful in a practical way, I appreciate the comments even more, even though there are fewer, because the view count is less than it could have been if I'd made a gear porn video. But I've talked about this already, and I won't repeat that too much more tonight. So guys, I think I'll end the stream now. I wish you all a continued Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I have a stack of videos lined up for early 25 release, a little of all sorts, all from my favorite soundtracks, my favorite vinyl albums, and my SSL Mixer 5-year review coming up, and all sorts of stuff coming up for 2025. And hopefully I will have 2 albums for you in 2025. So with that, I thank you, have a good night, and I'll see you back on the channel. So cheers.